So we're boom, sending them off. And then it's the next group and the next group. And we see like the perceived slowest first and the fastest last. And since we have the super sprinters there, because they do both races, we know that we'll have the world's fastest swim runners chasing you about 1 hour behind the slowest. They started 1 hour after. Wow. And they were hunting and chasing and hunting and chasing and trying to pass and to get to the finish line first.
Welcome to the Low Tide Boys, a swim run podcast. I'm Chip.
And I'm Chris, and this is episode 233 of the show. Thank you for listening and or watching the show on YouTube. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, and leave us a review. You know what to do. In this week's episode, we chat with EX Swimrun Co-Founder, fellow swimrun evangelist, and our friend Nicholas Roman. He's back on the show to give us his race recap for this year's EX Swimrun Super Sprint World Championship and the EX Safari events that happened just a few weeks ago. It's always great to have Nicholas on the podcast, and we're not planning a Swedish summer vacation for next May after listening to this conversation. Well, there's still time for you to start.
There is still time.
But first,
training update. So Bellingham Swim Run in the bag, race report done. Go check that out on YouTube if you haven't before. Just only a few weeks left until Attila Whistler, and training is in full swing. We have a couple big weeks left before travel/taper time. We're feeling really good after busting that rust up at Bellingham Swim Run and resolving any issues with the New Zealand mud snow.
We think.
So if you're joining us in Whistler, we've been getting lots of great comments and energy from folks on who are really stoked. We think we're the most stoked, obviously. But if you're planning on racing, be sure to check out our course preview episode with race director Dale Tennyson, and then our Boots on the Ground at Whistler episode that featured Marcus Barton and Lars Fernanger. So both of those combined will give you a pretty good comprehensive view on what to expect at Attila Whistler. I am beyond stoked for this. I actually was we were just randomly watching TV, and a commercial came up for Whistler. And my kids were like, "Oh, Whistler." I'm like, "This is where we're going."
Well, you know who's super stoked is my daughter, Rocky. About 10 times a day, she's like, "Do you know how many days we have left till Whistler?" I'm like, "Yes, 14. I was like, "Well, how do you know that?" I'm like, "Because you just told me that like 20 minutes ago."
Our both kids are both counting down the days. Now that summer break is in full swing for our kids, they're turned their attention to counting down the days till Whistler is happening.
Yeah, we mentioned this before, but the fact that they're so stoked just takes my stoke level up.
100% for sure. Yes. So now for this week's shout out.
Yeah. So before we get into the conversation with Nicholas Roman, we wanted to shout him out and share our heartfelt congratulations for Nicholas and his partner, Amy Abraham, for launching the new EX Swimrun and Fun podcast.
Wow.
Now, this is the first Swedish swimrun podcast, and Swimrun Podden stopped airing episodes back in 2019. And honestly, we can't think of a better duo to share the love of the sport than Nicholas and Amy. Now, by our count now, there's 4 swimrun podcasts out in the world.
We started the trend.
And we're here for it. So bonus shout outs to the Swimrun Show out of UK and Lestat Swimrun in France. They're both putting out great content. And honestly, I'm just so stoked that there's people other than us putting out the good stuff, trying to get people into the sport.
And different languages as well. So Nicholas's and Amy's podcast is in Swedish, and then the French podcast is in French. And the Swimrun Show as well.
King's English.
The King's. I thought it was the Queen's. Well,
she's dead.
Rest in peace, Queen. Yes, but plenty of Swimrun content to go around for all. Like, subscribe, 5 stars on all those shows there. Whilst you're doling out kudos for the Low Tide Boys, please spread the love around on all the Swimrun goodness. Speaking of goodness, very stoked on this week's Feats of Endurance winner. So this week's winner really put the feet in the Feats of Endurance. Our friend, fellow Nevadian swim runner, trail runner extraordinaire, master swimmer that we share a lane with on every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sarah Ferget, finally finished the Tahoe 200 trail race. So she attempted this race last year. Unfortunately, she had a DNF. She's had a couple rough goes of races, 100-milers and 50s. But 200 miles, got it done today at the time of recording at when was it, 11 a.m. or something? After starting on Friday at 9 a.m., finished Tuesday, midday on this 200-mile distance. So huge kudos to Sarah. Every time I see her, I'm like, you need to do something more fun, like more swimming instead of trying to run 200 miles.
I have two thoughts. One, good on her, and two, no thanks.
Yeah. I'm like, good. She got it
Big
done.
no thanks.
Hard pass on that one, but major kudos to you, Sarah, on that. Way to go. Massive congrats. I'm looking for that to pop on probably once she recharges her Garmin and uploads that puppy to Strava. I'm going to go on the Low Tide Boys Strava Club, throw some kudos on there, drop a comment or two. So be sure to join me in doing that. Head on to Strava, search Low Tide Boys, join in all the fun over there. Join swim runners as they're training for Attila Whistler, Tahoe 200, Folsom Swim Run Cape Cod, Cask, blah, blah, blah. We can keep going. Get in the Strava Club, people.
Do it.
Do it. Do it. Now for a little bit of show business.
Yeah. Are you interested in signing up for an Attila race in North America?
Yeah, I am, Chris. Tell me more.
Oh, yeah. Well, then use the code LOWTIDE15 to save 15% off your race registration for any and all 2024 events. The first race of the year is taking place on July 7th in Whistler. You may have heard of it. We may have been talking about it. It's going to be epic. Speaking of Whistler, we are going to be, doing our usual thing. We'll have a bunch of events planned, but the one that's looking like it's almost completed, been working on this behind the scenes all week with Dale and some folks in Whistler, is we're hosting a post-race party. It's gonna be at 5 p.m. at Black's Pub in downtown Whistler. There'll be more information, so just put it on your calendar. So stay tuned for more details on that. But we're gonna have a patio, it's family friendly, kids can come. There'll be beers and poutine and all sorts of stuff. And we might even have some special guests and special prizes. So stay tuned for that. But join us.
I'm excited.
There might be some other events, but that's the only one we're ready to let people know about
for now. But stay tuned. There's we're always cooking up something. Loto Boys always be cooking. I was looking, there's some Canadian delicacies on there, some poutine and all sorts of stuff that I'm looking forward to trying out. So I cannot wait to replenish the caloric deficit that will be there after Attila Whistler, 5 p.m. Black's Pub, and right in the heart of the Whistler Village or whatever they call it there.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Now, without any further ado, let's get into our EX 2024 race recap.
Yeah, it's always great to chat with Nicholas. His enthusiasm is infectious, and anyone listening will certainly catch swimrun fever.
I've caught it.
Because it's an infection. Anyway.
Oh, how did I miss it?
In this conversation, which is now essentially an annual tradition, we chatted about this year's edition of the EX Super Sprint, which is now they're calling the World Championship, which why not? It's the only race of its kind, might as well be the World Championship.
Yep.
And the EX Safari events that took place on May 25th and May 26th, respectively. We had some American representation this year. We had some Swedish Olympic, medalists. Yes,
Shipped
medalists.
into medal.
And it's awesome. This conversation is great. We always love having Nicholas on. And honestly, chatting with him, Chipper, I don't know about you, but I just get pumped up.
He brings the heat. He brings the energy. And we have had the pleasure of seeing Nicholas on his home island. The last two Attila races we did, he is on Namda, I believe. Runmurra. Sorry. Thank you, Chris. Runmurra. So, the boys are looking a little more fresh than on Orna, for example. But he had a great arch and smoke bombs and gave him a nice, pound on the knuckles there. But he always brings the energy for Attila as well and brings his crew out there. So he's definitely got the swim run fever as well. And yeah, let's just put it down, late May 2025, you can expect another EX Swim Run race recap. Love bringing Nicholas on. But without any further ado, let's kick it to our conversation with Nicholas Roman, race director, EX Swimrun.
Swimrun evangelist, and now podcast host. Good luck with that. Co-founder, EX Swimrun, here for our annual check-in on how the race went. Before we get to the events of which at recording, it was this past weekend. How are you?
Thunderous applause, guys. I'm great. I'm excellent. I've recovered. I've survived the EX weekend.
That's
It looked
great.
like
That's
quite
great.
a weekend.
It was crazy. You remember, in college going to like a 48-hour party in 2 days. That's basically what we did. So we've been a bit hungover, not literally, obviously, but just the exhaustion the last couple of days trying to get everything, together after the race. But we're dancing on clouds at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So, one of the reasons we love bringing you on the show is like the energy. Chipper and I were talking about it last night. It's like, just like your enthusiasm for swim run, trying out new formats, you keep iterating on the product that you're trying to put together. I mean, even Desi was referring to this as the Super Sprint World Championships and stuff. It was just great, right? So I guess before we get into sort of like a race recap, how it went, I'm just curious, like, where does this enthusiasm come from, and how do you sustain? I mean, obviously you're super stoked on swimrun, but where does this well of inspiration and effort and energy for putting on this, your races come from?
Well, I mean, we've been saying it all weekend, and it's sort of our mantra at the moment that everything we've been doing this weekend has always been with focus for the love of the sport. That's sort of our new tagline that we're using, because all three of us, me, Per, and Elizabeth, the founders of EX, I mean, we love swimrun. We love sort of the adventurous, the community side of it. And that's what sort of, when we see people coming, it's hugs all around, new people, old friends, people we went swim running with like 5 years ago in the archipelago. I mean, there's just so much energy going back and forth. That keeps you going, definitely. And then, of course, I mean, I'm not going to lie, I put a lot of prestige into EX Swimrun. I mean, we want to make it the best race in Sweden this year. And so we're putting a lot of energy into it. And I mean, the hours we put into it, I mean, it's crazy, but you get everything back when you see the video, when you see the pictures, and when you see the results and read the race reports. That keeps you going for at least 364 more days until it's time again.
That's all you need. You just need another 364 days of energy to sustain you to the next one.
Just give us 5 likes and 2 comments and we're back on track.
Love it.
Nice. And yeah, I mean, so EX Swimrun, for all those who are unfamiliar, you had the ARC Super Sprint, EX ARC Super Sprint, which is a very much a short course style swim run race. And then you have the following day, a sort of your more traditional longer format swim run, complete with how high is this jump again? I saw you built a proper takeoff ramp for it.
It was 6.2 meters. I don't know what that is in feet. You do. Ask ChatGPT.
Yeah.
But it was huge. When we got there, they built it on the Friday. When we turned up on Friday, we were setting the course on Friday already. Both me and Elizabeth just looked at each other and were like, oh shit, this is huge. Because it was as high as the one we built, but it was much longer, and therefore it felt much higher.
Yeah, 20 feet,
crazy.
20-foot drop for
That's from your feet. And then you need to add your length to that as well. So for me, it's like 7.8 meters.
True.
Yeah,
Amazing.
and looked like a great time. But yeah, I would love to kind of hear. And this is this is your 3rd or 4th year with the EX style Super Sprint series, and I feel like, at least from the reception and the media that we were seeing on Instagram, this year really, you had some great players. You had top triathletes. You had some folks coming over from the United States as well, and you kind of had your normal heavy hitters from Sweden and in the normal swim run scene. But it feels like this year, word had gotten around about how fun the Super Sprint event is. Yeah, let's get your take on sort of how you feel the progression has been year over year for specifically the ARC Super Sprint, the EX ARC Super Sprint.
Yeah, I mean, it started as a crazy idea, and we got some people engaged the first year. We were lucky to get, some of our friends there, like Desi and Max and Desi Andersson, Max Napoleon, and some other Max Andersson, and some other people there. And we just they confirmed that this is a new, cool, super fast race format that they really, really enjoyed. I mean, it's only like 6 minutes each heat, like between 6 and 7 minutes. And then the year after was the year when we got both, Max, Hugo Tormento, we had Desiree, we had all like the world champions there. And we were like, wow, this is really getting bigger now. And then this year, what we did this year, that was really, really different, because what we've been struggling with is, I ask you, like, Chris, you want to do it? Off the record, nobody sees that question. You say, yeah, I'll be there. And then you get injured, you get sick, or something happens. So we've had sort of an issue with that. So this year we went out to about like 100 people and asked them, stage one, if you get an invite, would you be interested? Okay. So we get like 20, 30 people saying, oh no, I can't do it. I have a wedding, I'm away, stuff like that. So we don't even bother asking them. So we had a huge list of top triathletes in the world. And go big. I went for like the Ironman Kona 1, 2, 3, 4, top 10.
Why not?
I was asking,
Love it.
Like Sara Sjöström, she's like the Swedish Olympic world champion in swimming. I was asking her. I was asking, people, top ranked triathletes and swimmers in the world. Because if you don't ask, you can't, the worst that can happen is you get a no.
Ain't that the
So we got some huge names this year. The biggest probably being Lisa Nordén. She's Swedish, obviously, but she took Olympic silver. She came second by 100th of a second. So she was 100th of a second away from an Olympic gold in triathlon. And she said she wanted to do it, which was really cool. And then we had, some, national swimming champions from Sweden and some Olympic swimmers. We had a guy from Catalonia coming, Liz and Jacob that you guys know, coming over from the US. So a really, really cool crowd this year. A great mix. And the show was amazing. The mix was so cool.
I'm curious.
Excellent.
I'm curious for the folks who came who aren't sort of like native to the swim run scene. Did you help them, or did, EX help them? Just like, hey, this is the gear you want. Here's all the stuff. Or was it pretty much like you're on your own to sort it out?
No, we've been helping them. The ones we can, we've been helping. I've personally been coaching Tove Brickner, a swimmer from Sollentuna, where I live, where the EX or the ARC Super Sprint is hosted. And I asked her, she took a Swedish national medal here in like 25 meters, 50 meters freestyle. So I've been swimming with her and just getting, obviously she swam with paddles, but she's never swum with the pool buoy and never with shoes and never in a wetsuit. So I was like helping her. Okay, we're doing some sessions in the pool. I know you can kick my ass if we take off the gear, but this is the gear you should use. And let's start swimming. And in the beginning, she was kicking all the time with the pool buoy. And I was like, stop using your feet. You don't want to use your feet when you swim up. But it was, but we're helping them. And then at the same time, we're saying the only two things you have to have for the super sprint is our bib and our cap. That's it. The rest is up to you. You can run barefoot. You can run in a wetsuit. You can do a lot of them this year because it was so warm. They were just running in like Speedos or like a bathing suit, triathlon suits and stuff like that. We don't need a pool buoy. Everybody had one this year, I think. You can go big paddle, small paddle. It's up to you. So we let them decide entirely. It's like the sport has to decide itself what's the best, the super sprint.
Chipper and I were talking about that last night as well. We're having a production meeting for the show, just talking, making sure we have our talking points lined up and everything. That we're still surprised. Like people are still using tiny pool buoys. Some people still aren't using pool buoys. And isn't that such a cool feature of the sport that it still leaves so much room? Like there's so many ways to skin the cat. There's so many ways to experience the sport. And there isn't, while there's probably a dominant big pool buoy, appropriately sized paddles is usually the way to go. It seems like that's like the main thing, but that's not the only way. Like we see people at world champs with super tiny pool buoys. There's this really great UK swim runners who don't use pool buoys at all. So it's like that part of it is so interesting. So it's curious to see it even on like the super sprint format, that there's so many different ways to experience the sport and move through this course, which is, as you mentioned, super fast, dynamic, and everything else.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, the paddles were really small. Now they're huge. Most of us who can't swim properly, we use huge paddles, whereas Desiree, she still uses her small paddles, the same paddles for every race. And unfortunately, when she did the jump, her one paddle broke, so now we had to bury her paddles.
Oh, no.
She's won every race green paddles. So now she was like, oh no. But she didn't regret it. She said, I'll jump again tomorrow if I get the chance, because it was so much.
Good for her.
I mean, I've been looking at, I'm sort of like an entrepreneur. I like to look at things. What can you do? I mean, you could use air, like a suit that you can fill up with like gas, just push in air. You wouldn't need a pool buoy if it just filled around your legs or something. So you could be seeing something like that in the future. Who knows?
It's true.
I mean, in skiing, there was traditional skiing for years and years and years. And then all of a sudden, one guy broke his legs or injured his knee or something. And he did Vasalopp at 92K just using his upper body, just, with his poles like this. And people were like, you can't do it. It can't be done. And then he did it. And now everybody does it because he proved it's a new way of doing the sport.
Right.
So we'll see what happens. I mean, the super sprint it's swim run, but it's something completely different. I mean, it's so fast. It's crazy.
Yeah, and I do like how you kind of have the heat style as well. So there's multiple races. It's not just kind of one race. So you start out with a few different heats and you sort of you chisel away at having your top field there at the end. But yeah, I mean, really the fasties really are rising to the top on that one. How are you seeing some of the strategy play out for some of the folks who are looking in the sort of seed laps or the qualifying laps? Are they deploying any strategy, or are they still giving it 100%?
That was the thing this year. We saw so much cool strategic racing. It was amazing to see. We had first we had a seeding lap where you had to do one lap, and that time put you in which heat you were going to end up in. Basically, that was our way of saying it's up to you. You can't blame us if you end up in the wrong heat. It's up to you because you set your first time. And then we started seeing tactical racing. There was the guy from Spain, Ignasi and Girones, or from Catalonian. He did his first lap and everybody was like, oh my God, he was so fast. But then he made it almost all the way. But I think in the end, his energy was just used up. He didn't have enough. He went too hard in the beginning. So he couldn't really save enough for the end, is what I think. I don't know. I haven't talked to him. And we saw some really tactical racing as well when it comes to the swims. People, positioning themselves before the swim and just sort of, not swimming. You saw groups of people like in the men's final. They all said afterwards, oh no, we didn't push too hard for the first 150. We were all just group swimming. And then the push came with the last 50 meters of that swim. You could see, and you can see it on the videos as well. You can see them, just all of a sudden increasing frequency because one guy went and then everybody had to, try to keep up to get first out of the water.
It's
so you could really see some cool racing and the runs as well. I mean, people just, settling back, not going too hard on the run, and then just coming in last in the water, like Annika Wallin. She came in last in the water and she knew she was the fastest swimmer. She just poured by everybody. Nobody knew who she was. That was the best thing. Nobody had heard of her in the swim run scene. She's a swimmer. And we were like, yes, this is what we want. Who is that? They were like, holy crap, she can swim. Now they had to think of that in the next heat. Okay, I really need to run far ahead of her because she's going to catch me in the water. Stuff like that is really cool.
Yeah, almost like the pursuit style in the cycling. It's kind of that cat and mouse game. Like, okay, who's gonna fire first, and then everyone goes after that. So that's a really exciting feature there. And
we won. If you look in I think it's the second semifinal where you have Desiree Andersson and Lisa Nordén in the same heat. Lisa Nordén, being a triathlete, she's even put it out on her own Instagram. It's a really funny video. She's used to like a soft transition, like a pontoon with a carpet on it or felt on it. She was sort of, coming into the water. She was probably like 8-10 meters ahead of Desiree in the first transition. She's standing there getting her gear together. Desiree just comes and she just jumps next to her, like boink, boink, and she's swimming. And you could see her like, oh shit, she lost like 10 meters on the first swim immediately just in the transition. Caught up to Desiree. They're side by side coming out of the water. Desiree, as she does, she just goes bump, bump, and she's up and she's running. And Lisa is struggling a bit with that transition, loses 10 meters, and that was that. I mean, she lost. She didn't come first in that heat. And it was just the transition. It was so cool to see.
Yeah, you got to be dialed in on all, not just your swim and your run, but you got to be dialed in on all the little things as well for something that fast and compact.
Yeah, and it kind of goes to show that even if you're an Olympic medalist, in any category, it's still a rite of passage to get beat by Desiree.
Yeah, nobody has to be ashamed of being Pete.
Yeah,
Just, you know.
exactly. Just
It's going to happen
just
at
it's
some
like
point.
it's like you've been
But it
blessed.
was close. It was really close to final. I mean, it was Desiree, Sabina, Hanna, Annika, I think, in that order, and it was really close.
Yeah, and I think obviously one of the things that I think if I could speak for you, Nicholas, I know I'm already speaking for Chipper. Like one of the things we love about Swimrun is that, you know, on Saturday, Desi and Sabina are going head to head, and then on Sunday they're racing together and having a great time. And you know, it's such an amazing aspect of the sport that you could do an individual pursuit and then the next day team up and, you know, go have an adventure.
Yeah, I mean that's what we love. I mean, on the Saturday, it's fierce competition, but it's all smiles. I mean, everybody's still friends. They're cheering for each other. They're looking at each other's heats, you know, checking it out. When they finish, they're there pretty quickly, you know, with hugs. I mean, people are just, you can see it in the video that we're releasing, that when you finish, basically they just fall over on that grassy hill and they're just lying there and people are there trying, you know, comfort them. And you can hear them almost like dying inside because they're so tired. But then they're, you know, up on and then we have a racers area only. And there's, you know, talking, chatting, having coffee, ice cream, just, you know, getting ready. When's your next heat? When's mine? So it's like a huge community gathering of the best and the fastest we have. So it's such a cool thing to experience.
Definitely. Yeah. And so you've alluded to it a couple of times. So what sounds like the big change for this year was that it looks like you got some really good footage. You've been talking about this video. Tell us a little bit about, you know, give us the sneak peek.
Yeah, I mean, we put a lot of effort this year. I mean, we have the event, we want it to be super professional. So of course we try to get the best of the best there in all aspects, not just the racers. We have, you know, 2 or 3 professional photographers there because we want the pictures and we want the racers to have the pictures of them. But then we also had, you know, the legend Rasmus Ludenius has been doing up on all the ÖTÖ videos. So he joined me. He was there last year watching the race, you know, he just turned up and watched it. And he said, I can make the most epic swimrun movie ever if I get a chance next year. Because, I mean, it's different to a swimrun race because he said he'd already planned ahead what types of pictures he wanted or images he wanted. And then he was like, yeah, I wasn't too happy with that exit in semifinal, final one. So I'm going to go down and I'm going to film another exit. And then I want to be on the boat for this one. I want to be up here. I want to have a drone for this one. So He was piecing it together, you know, beforehand in his mind. We just said, go nuts, Russ. Make the coolest, most epic video ever. And then what you've seen, you've got the sneak peek here. And that was the first draft. And I mean, I literally shed a tear when I watched it. Not because of the race, but because it shows what a huge event we created and sort of everything around it. You can see all the people cheering and everything. And it's, I mean, I've never been prouder of a race than this year's EX Swimrun and the whole weekend. It's been, you know, it's been like we said, we've been lucky. People were like, oh, you're so lucky with the weather and the luck. And we said, yeah, but it's sort of like, I don't know if you've heard of him, but the most famous skier ever from Sweden, Ingmar Stenmark, he had a quote, which is really famous, where he says, I don't know anything about luck. The only thing I know, the more I train, the more luck I have. So we're saying, I mean, we've been training for 4 years. I organize tons of other races. So every aspect of this race has been sort of looked into beforehand. So it was so cool to see that video.
Love it. Love it. When's it going to be released to the masses?
We're releasing it tonight, which is probably, I don't know when this is coming out, but it's Friday, the 31st of May at 6:00 p.m. Central European time. We're pushing it out and it's going to spread. It's going to go a lap around the world, I'm sure. And then we're going to use that video to sort of promote swimrun to people who don't know what swimrun is. That's the whole thing. Everybody who knows swimrun knows swimrun. We want to get more people involved and we want them to see sort of how cool this is. And so we're going to try to do that with the video.
Awesome.
Nice. So you will have already seen it by the time you're hearing this, is my guess. And I know one big component as well of your, especially the EX Super Sprint series, is the sort of the fan and the viewability of it, which is something that, you know, in your sort of traditional swimmer race, it's a little bit difficult to view the entire race unless you're going around on a boat and checking the different islands out. But because of the condensed nature of it, you have a really strong fan and cheer section there. And it seems like every year you keep building more and more progress of that. It seems like you had the largest turnout that you've had so far. So it's really awesome to see like the progress on, racer quality, race quality, production of videos, and now sort of the fan viewing area. How are you feeling about the turnout from a viewership perspective for the EX Super Sprint?
Yeah, I mean, we're super happy. There was a lot of people there, and I mean, we've been pushing really hard. I mean, this year we are saying that we are the Swimrun Super Sprint World Championships. I mean, nobody else is doing this. We're doing it. We have the world champs there. The winner takes it all. We are the world champions. So we've been putting that out. We are the Swimrun Super Sprint World Championships. So we've been putting that out. We got a lot of media, and I've been pushing it out with Lisa Nordén in the starting field, and that gives us a bit of recognition outside of swimrun.
Yeah.
I mean, swimrun is a tiny sport, but triathlon is a big sport. Swimming is a bigger sport. So you're getting more and more people there. So we were getting a lot of crowds there. And then we also pulled one of these, and we had a sponsor this year, which is like one of these energy drinks, but sort of a good energy drink with, good like that. So they were pulling a lot of people there as well, because you could win a half year supply of clean drinks. So they were like, a lot of kids there like, oh yeah, I want to win there. And they had to guess, the competition was guess the winning time. And I mean, they were everywhere between like 23 minutes and 2 minutes.
23 minutes. That's the Low Tide Boys time if we were there.
Yeah, exactly.
23 minutes.
You would do it. I think you guys would do the course maybe in around 7.5, 8 minutes.
Bless
probably.
you. Bless you.
And they're doing it in 6. So they're about 2 minutes faster.
Yeah, by the time we hit the water, I think they're probably getting out, is probably how it would end up being, it feels like.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it would be that bad, but it's just like doing it repeatedly. So like, let's say we do survive one of the heats, to have to do it again and then again.
Yeah, we're good for one heat.
That's where yeah, I'll go ballistic for one heat, but
I did 2 heats on the Thursday with Tove, the girl I was, training with. I'm going to show her the course. We were practicing on the course. I did 2 heats, one easy one and one sort of where I tried to show her that I'm going to run ahead of you. Don't worry about me. That's the whole strategic thing. Don't worry about the person. If there's one person in front of you, you just need to look back over your shoulder. Who's behind me? Because you just need to finish first or second. So I was trying, I powered down the hill. I went around that corner and I was pushing really hard past the castle, trying to build a gap to show her that don't worry about me. And then, of course, when I got in the water, I was finished. And that was it. She swam past me. She ran up the hill. I came like 1 minute after, and I was almost, throwing up. I was so tired. And that was a time of like 7:24 or something. I don't know. So it was a shit time as well. But.
I like the diabolical nature of the hill at the end. It's always an extra.
Yeah. Oh, that hill.
Yeah.
Everybody hates that. They love it going down, but they hate it coming up.
Do you have some sort of, you need like a lactic hill or something like that to some name to put on it. Maybe some sponsor. BioFreeze can sponsor Lactic Hill next time.
Yeah, we'll have someone. So it's called Stallbacken, which is sort of like the stable hill, because they used to have horses up. There's a castle there, so they used to have horses up there. And so it's called Stallbacken, but maybe we call it the stall hill instead, because everybody's stalling there. They're coming around the corner full speed.
Yeah.
And then they're trying to get the engine going up the hill. And then
gotta make sure you're in the right gear, So Nicholas, let's talk about Sunday. Let's talk about the safari race. My understanding is you did it pursuit style again. So why don't you explain to us kind of like what that format looks like and walk us through the course?
Before we go into that course, we've been mentioning Desiree Andersson throughout the interview as the winner of the super sprint, but we need to mention Lars Ekman as well. He was the male winner.
Oh, right. That's right.
Yeah,
the king, the legend, Lars Ekman. He won
one of the Beaver brothers.
The Beaver brothers, exactly. Yes. Such a cool guy. He's just low key, turns up, kicks ass, powering through each heat, and he had some really tough competition as well. But he took the prize for the top spot for the male, and Desiree Andersson the female. So super cool. So they are the Swimrun Super Sprint World Champions.
And I love how you included the giant check as well, which is always a good touch. I'm always a fan of a
Yeah, I
giant
mean, you
check.
have to have one
Big
of those.
check.
I got one of those Costa Swimrun when I came second, a huge check, and I was so proud of that check on the dance floor all night with my check. It was me and Yusuf Youngberg. We came second 2 years in a row and sort of dancing with the check. You have to have a check.
Yeah, I mean, if
Love
I ever win a check like that, it's just gonna be my background at work. Any video, I'll just have a giant check in the background. Like, oh, what's this thing? Oh yeah, I haven't cashed it yet. I'm just, just in a check.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a proper podium experience. So all the speed demons
Yeah.
get their energy out on Saturday, and then they go to a longer course race on Sunday. What Chris was referring to a little bit earlier, the Safari. Yeah, give us a run through that.
Yeah, so what we do is we do the closed race on the Saturday, and then the open races on the Sunday. So we have the EX24, which has to do with the year, not the distance. So next year will be EX25. EX24 long course, which is actually 24 kilometers. That's where people are getting confused. And then we have the EX short, which is 14. But I mean, what we started this by saying when we launched EX was, I mean, we're here to do swim run. None of us are really like, I mean, I'm not a swimmer, but I've learned to swim. We want a high percentage swim. So we said for people swimming inside in the pools all winter, they want to get out. I mean, they want to get out and play and swim. So let's create races with a lot of swimming. So I mean, the swim factor is, I think, 21% on the long course and like almost 22 on the short. A lot of swimming.
Nice.
Which is cool.
Yeah. And can you explain the pursuit format?
Yeah, we started that, I think it was like 4 or 5 years ago. And the idea behind it, and I was out swim running this morning in Edsviken with a couple, and I'm going to come back to that why I mentioned that. So the idea is that in normal races, it's a mass start. Everybody starts, the best take off. And then when you finish 2 hours after them, they've had a shower, they've had change clothes, they've had some food, and they look pretty bored and they're ready to go home. We said, that's not the way we want to do it. We want to do it the other way around. So what we do is we seed everybody into small groups, and then we set groups off every 5 minutes. First, we start the short race with a mass start for those they can start. And then we start sending them off every 5 minutes, small groups, which gives us a chance to present each and every racer with this. I mean, with the speaker, I was doing the speaker. So I'm presenting each and every racer, and then we count them in. Everybody's cheering. And then we had, the smoke from the day before. So we're boom, sending them off. And then it's the next group and the next group. And we see like the perceived slowest first and the fastest last. And since we have the super sprinters there, because they do both races, we know that we'll have the world's fastest swim runners chasing you about 1 hour behind the slowest. They started 1 hour after.
Wow.
And they were hunting and chasing and trying to pass and to get to the finish line first.
It's such
Amazing.
a cool experience because, most people don't get to, rub elbows with the top in the sport, whether that be triathlon, swim run, whatever. And this is a really unique experience that they get a chance to, although it may be briefly once they're getting, when they're getting past, you sort of get to maybe share an island or share a part of a swim or a swim entry with some swim run talent that you normally don't get to mix it up with too much. So it's a cool experience for everyone around.
Yeah, and I mean, that's sort of when I did my first marathon in Stockholm, I was passed by the winner. I was lapped by the winner. And I wasn't too ashamed being lapped because he won the entire race. But to see him pass me at he was probably running like 3:15 tempo or something. I mean, something crazy like that. And I was doing like a 5:30K or something. And I was so impressed to see him. And that's what we wanted to create. So the slowest can experience how fast the fastest are. And that was what I was going to say. I went out swim running this morning with a guy, and he was doing the race. And he said, on a technical part, which is really, really technical, lots of roots, lots of rocks, and it's sort of slanted like that, small path. The 4 men's chasing team, there were four men's teams that were sort of grouped together all day. They powered, they finished within like seconds of each other. They came past them on that trail. And he said it was so crazy how fast they were. They were running so hard, lines stretched, on that technical path. And he said he's never seen anything like that so fast. He was so impressed. He said it looked so dangerous, but of course they knew what they were doing. I mean, he would never have experienced that otherwise. He would just have seen them, go. Now they're finished. But yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah, it's interesting to think how, like, you can just almost like calibrate how much fitter they are, how much faster they are when they pass you, because you really get a good sense of like, wow, there's some amazing talent out there. And and the videos from the base jump, one guy did a gainer. It's like, oh my God. I'm curious how many paddles and goggles are at the bottom of that jump.
You have a yard sale after where you're selling all the all the merch that fell.
There's tons of gear there, I can tell you. We have at least
like a
half
graveyard.
paddle. This is half. We have a couple paddle, like a pair was saying, at least 10 swim caps and 10 goggles on the bottom. And we also have, if anybody has like a magnet fishing gear, there's a really expensive watch there as well, because one guy finished without his, I think it was a Coral.
Oh, wow.
Without watch. So I'm going to try to fish that up for him so he can get it back. But yeah, the jump was so cool this year. We had a prize and we had best jump. One person would win prize for the best jump. And it was a pair of brand new EX special edition Evolvent carbon paddles from Fredrik, who was out. So he brought a pair, branded EX best jump Falcon Mountain and everything. And Patrik Bylund is the guy. He did a backflip off 6.2 meters with all his gear intact, which was so cool.
Yeah.
But then we saw other jumps. We saw, like, I think it's called like a mule kick when you like pull your legs up like that. We've seen mule kicks. We've seen daffies. There was 2 front flips, a couple like 360s and stuff like that. But then a lot of jumps like the one we posted on our Instagram where it's sort of shuffling forward like a penguin and just go off the edge. That was the usual jump.
I love it. So Nicholas, you're always innovating. We love having you on because of, like we mentioned earlier, sort of the enthusiasm you bring to it. What's next? What are you cooking up next?
Well, we're starting. Feels like the EX Swimrun brand is becoming more of a brand, and with races underneath it. I mean, we started as a weekend with 2 races, and now we're doing. Elizabeth hosts the Swimrun Cup in Stockholm, which is a huge, cool, series of small races. So we're helping with that. And then we have the big thing I'm doing this summer, since I can't go to Rockman. I said, if I can't go do an adventure, I'm going to make my own adventures. So we're doing the safari tour this summer. It's me and it's only 12 people. So it's sold out now. We have me and 11 new friends and old friends. We're going to do a 36-hour sort of adventure safari, half the time swim running and half the time paddling sea kayaks out off sort of the outer coast of Rundmarö. When you do Ötö, you go on the west coast. On the east coast, it's just, it's small islands. And then in the end, it's just tiny, rocks. And then it's just the ocean. So we're going to be all the way out there for the 36-hour thing where we sleep over we booked like a nature reserve, a house out there. So we're going to try to reach that house the first day. And then we're going to go from there down to Nem and back up to Rundmarö on the second day. But it's all uncharted. It's all unsupported. We're supporting ourselves and just with the sea kayaks as the energy station and the safety boat. So we'll see. We'll see if we survive, but who knows?
You'll survive.
Yeah.
You'll survive.
That's my playground off Rundmarö. So I just want to show more people my playground. And that's basically, that's where the sport was invented, in places like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which honestly, it makes sense. I mean, I can't think of how many times we've mentioned it where it's just like, if you go to Uta and you just like walk around, of course you're like, hey, I wonder if I could just swim over to that island. Like, that doesn't look too bad. Let me just go over there. It makes perfect sense that a sport like swimrun would be born in an environment like that where it's just so much room to explore, and all you have to do is swim 400 meters to get to the next island and keep going. It's a pretty incredible location.
Yeah, and it's safe. It's pretty safe. The only thing you need to look out for is like motorboats and water scooters. That's the only danger out on those islands. We get some falcons out there, some sea falcons. So, but they're huge, but they'll stay out of your way. But some seals and stuff, but they won't harm you anyway. But it's going to be an amazing experience, and it's uncharted. I've done half of that course. I've never done it the full 36-hour course. So we'll see. Maybe this will be our next big thing. Who knows?
Maybe,
Wow.
maybe.
Sounds intriguing.
And then we have in the fall we do our super safari, which is like the row gaining, collecting points games finish. It's the grand finale of the swim run year for us, at least, because it's in like October and it gets pretty cold. So you don't want to do too much swim running after that. Even though I know people do it all year, the big majority do not after September.
Yeah.
We do like Costa swim run, and then we come up and we do the EX Super Safari, and that sort of finishes it off for us, at least.
Love it. I love it.
Nice.
Well, Nicholas, again, we'll say it for a third time. Your enthusiasm for swim run is infectious. It gets us super stoked. We can't wait to get out there one year and do EX. Maybe next year will be the year for us to do our one heat, and then save it. Then save it for
People buys.
the base
If we come out, we should get a few buy rounds where we just make it through on celebrity.
Yeah, or just put us in heats to show people what it looks like normal swim runners, so you can see like the just like the average.
You have the time trial. You could try it there. We had a lot of people doing the time trial this year, and we actually took in, I think, 2. We take in 1, but we had an injury, so we took in 2 from the time trials. So that was really cool. One guy, I never heard of him before. He turned up and he managed to qualify. So you could do that, the time trial.
Yeah, there you go. But Nicholas, thank you so much for taking the time. Obviously, it goes without saying, like, we're rooting for you. We're rooting for EX. We love what you're doing for the sport, and
we're rooting for you guys.
Let's do this again next year.
Yeah, no worries. And I mean, keep up the good work. I mean, I love listening to your podcast and spreading the love about swim run and the fun, and keep it fun. I mean, keep the adventurous side, keep the community side, and sort of that where it all started with that sort of what we experienced this weekend, that sort of camaraderie and fun and adventure and of course, I mean, tough racing for those who want, but it's like a big family. So it's really cool.
Yeah.
You need to come out and join the family with us in next spring.
So true. Chipper, we'll talk about it.
And do I get the chance to cheer for you at the World Championships this year as well?
Not
Are
this,
you guys doing?
Not this year. No, we're taking this year off from Attila, but that is always an energizing part for us, is to go by and get a high five from you on Runmura and set us off on our merry way.
Yeah, that was great seeing you guys there. Seeing everybody there cheering for him was so much fun. So
yeah,
but
that
let
was
me know if
really
you
a
come
highlight.
out. Take you out on an adventure out of Runmura, which will blow your mind. I mean, it's crazy out there. It's such a rock and roll swim run out there. Yeah, and it's just the 3 of us cruising along. That's it.
Nice.
We're the only people out there.
Sounds good, man.
Awesome.
We
Cool.
will definitely take you up on that. But thank you so much, Nicholas. Have a great day. And yeah, man, keep it up.
Keep it up. Thanks, guys. Nice talking.
All right. Okay.
That's it for this week's episode. Thanks so much for listening to the show. Make sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and leave a rating or review, since that's the best way to help other people discover the show and the sport of swim run.
Check out our website, lowtideboys.com. That's boys with a Z, for swim run resources, including gear guides, tips, how-to videos, and so much more. Make sure to check out our meme page at The Low Tide Boys on Instagram. If you have any questions or suggestions for the show, send us a DM or email us at lowtideboys@gmail.com.
We'd like to thank Riding Easy Records for our show music, and of course our wives for their support and tolerance of our swim run and other activities.
Lots of activities.
Lots of activities.
Finally, you can support our efforts on Patreon. Until next time, get out there and go for a swim.
Then a run,
And then a swim.
then another run,
Then another swim.
then run some more.
Just keep going.
Let's go.
And then stop at some point because,
And fuel. Don't forget to fuel.
Gotta fuel
Of
too.
course, yes.